This podcast is not for the overly sensitive, the terminally optimistic, or anyone who thinks dating in your 50s is a whimsical romantic comedy. Listener discretion is advised.
You're in the right place. This is Girls Can Tell, hosted by Trent Erickson, here to say what everyone else is too polite to.
Let me tell you what I see when I open the dating apps. Travel. Everywhere. Constantly. Not an occasional mention or a casual, I like to explore new places when I get the chance. A full personality, a defining characteristic. A list of countries visited displayed like a resume. Photos from Bali and Portugal and Japan and Costa Rica and promises of the next trip they've already booked. A profile bio that mentions travel so often, you start to wonder if they forgot they were supposed to be describing a person rather than an itinerary. And right underneath all of that, in the same profile, sometimes in the same sentence, a detailed list of what they're looking for in a partner. Loyalty, consistency, someone who shows up, someone who's present, someone who wants to build something real. I want to talk about that contradiction today, because I think the travel obsession has taken over dating profiles and has gotten a completely free pass in the modern relationship discussion. Nobody's saying what it's saying or asking the questions it raises. And having dated women whose entire lives revolved around travel and living through it, seeing firsthand what it does to a relationship, I have some things to say about it that you might not think about unless you've experienced it. Let's start with the most basic question. Where's the money coming from? I look at profiles of teachers, nurses, administrative assistants, and office managers, people with perfectly good jobs that pay perfectly reasonable salaries. And those same people are posting photos from Thailand in February, Iceland in April, Italy in June, Mexico in September, and somewhere in South America before the year is out. That's what you'd call a lifestyle. And it's a lifestyle that costs money that the salary attached to their jobs doesn't obviously support. Now, there are explanations. Credit cards, no mortgage, kids or pets, priorities that put travel above everything else, including savings and stability, and the kind of financial foundation that most people who are trying to build a life together are going to need at some point. And that's fine. People get to choose how they spend their money, but it tells you that this person has organized their entire financial life around being somewhere else as often as possible. That the thing they value most, the thing they're willing to sacrifice other things for, is not being where they actually live. Which raises the next question. If someone spends every available moment of free time leaving the city they live in, every long weekend, vacation day, and gap in their schedule, what does that say about their relationships in real life? I've noticed the people who are most obsessed with travel often are the least invested in the city they live in, the community around them, and the relationships that require consistent physical presence to build and maintain. And I don't mean someone who takes 2 nice vacations a year and comes home energized. That's normal and healthy. That's what travel is supposed to be, a break from your regular life that makes you appreciate your regular life more. I mean the person who treats home like a hotel between trips, seems to be in a constant state of either just got back or about to leave, and whose entire sense of self is built around movement and novelty and the next destination rather than anything rooted in a place they actually chose to live. At some point you have to wonder if they're traveling towards something or running from something. And it's extremely important to know if you're considering building a life with this person. I dated a few flight attendants, not at the same time and essentially by accident, but separate relationships at different points. And I want to make clear that these women were interesting, complicated, real people who were more than just their jobs. But the job was the relationship. When your partner's entire professional life is built around being in a different city every few days, the relationship exists in the gaps. Instead of building something together in any continuous sense, you're maintaining something in what's left over in the margins of a life that was designed around absence. You get used to the schedule, adjust your expectations, stop planning things that require consistency because consistency isn't something the relationship can structurally support. And slowly the relationship becomes something you fit into their travel schedule rather than something you build together. It's a guest appearance in someone's life. You never really fit there. It's like when Brad Pitt was on Friends that one time. I mean, it was okay for an episode, but it wouldn't work long term. And the women I see on dating apps who've built their entire identity around travel, who aren't flight attendants but have constructed a civilian version of that same lifestyle, are offering the same thing without the professional explanation as to why they're never around. At least the flight attendant had a reason. The travel-obsessed civilian is making a choice every single time. And the part that really gets me is the profiles that are most saturated with travel content are often the same profiles with the most detailed list of requirements for a partner. Must be ambitious, must be consistent, must be emotionally available, must be present, must be willing to invest in building something real. And I'm reading these thinking, do you hear yourself? You're describing a partner who shows up, who's there, who participates in the relationship with regularity, presence, and investment. And you're offering what exactly? A rotating schedule of departures and arrivals? A relationship conducted largely over text from various time zones? A presence that's conditional on there not being somewhere more interesting to be this weekend? The requirements list assumes a partner who treats the relationship as a priority, but the profile makes it clear that the relationship will always be competing with the next trip for that priority slot. And the trip always wins, because if it didn't, they'd be home more. I want to make a broader point here that goes beyond dating profiles. Relationships, all relationships, not just romantic ones, require presence to develop depth. Friendships require showing up. Family bonds require consistency. Romantic partnerships need accumulated ordinary shared time that's mandatory to the foundation of a relationship. You cannot build that while you're consistently somewhere else, which makes me very curious about the quality of relationships in the lives of people who are almost never home. Who are your closest friends, and when do you see them? What is your relationship with your family like? And when did you last spend real, unscheduled time with them that wasn't a holiday visit or a trip you took together? Just ordinary time in ordinary life. You know, the stuff that real relationships are made of. The Tuesday nights at home, the boring Sundays, being around when nothing is happening that eventually becomes the proof that someone is actually in your life rather than just passing through it. People who travel constantly don't have any of that to offer, and the romantic partner who signs up for that relationship is going to find out pretty quickly they're not so much in a relationship as they are on a waiting list for someone's attention between departures. It's about travel as an identity. There's a difference between someone who loves to travel and someone whose entire sense of self is built around constant movement. The first person has a hobby. The second has an avoidant personality that produces good photos. As a compatibility sign in a dating profile, the travel obsession tells you several things that are worth thinking hard about before you invest any time. This person prioritizes novelty over stability. They've organized their finances around leaving rather than building. Their availability is limited in ways that will affect the relationship from the beginning, and this person may not have examined closely enough why home never seems to be enough. For some people, that's fine. If you also want to travel constantly and have the means and freedom to do it, then maybe you've found your person. But if you're looking for someone who's going to be there consistently, routinely, as a real presence in your daily life, the travel-obsessed profile is telling you something valuable. It's telling you that being there isn't a priority. And no amount of neat photos from Guam changes what that means for the relationship you were hoping to build.